What happens when secret operations, political agendas, and international arms deals collide behind closed doors? What if one of the biggest United States political scandals wasn't about who knew what, but about what no one was supposed to know at all? This is the story of the Iran-Contra Affair, a covert operation so complex, so tangled in contradictions, that its full consequences are still debated today. Welcome to Old Topic. Today we're diving into the enigma of the Iran-Contra Affair. What were its consequences? Let's go back to the early 1980s. The Cold War is still in full swing, the Reagan administration is fiercely anti-communist, and the United States is actively seeking to counter Soviet influence across the globe. In Nicaragua, a leftist group known as the Sandinistas has come to power. They are Marxist-Leninist, friendly with the Soviets and Cubans, and most importantly to Washington, seen as a threat. In response, a rebel group called the Contras emerges. The Contras are anti-communist and seek to overthrow the Sandinistas. The Reagan administration, interestingly enough, views them as freedom fighters. But here's the catch. Congress doesn't agree. In 1982, Congress passes the Boland Amendment, which limits United States government assistance to the Contras. Then in 1984, they tightened the restrictions even further, explicitly banning aid. Publicly, the United States government can no longer support the Contras. Privately, a secret operation begins. Around the same time, Iran is in the middle of a brutal war with Iraq. Despite its anti-American stance, Iran needs weapons. The United States, under President Reagan, officially labels Iran a state sponsor of terrorism. But, behind the scenes, the Reagan administration is actually looking for ways to establish a back channel with Tehran, hoping that a better relationship might lead to some influence in the Middle East, and maybe even the release of American hostages being held in Lebanon by Hezbollah. What followed was, honestly, a web of covert operations. Weapons would be secretly sold to Iran. The profits from those sales would then be funneled, illegally, to the Contras in Nicaragua. It was a pretty complicated workaround to the restrictions imposed by Congress. At the center of this operation was Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, a staffer on the National Security Council. He managed the secret transfers, arranged logistics, and maintained plausible deniability for higher-ups. But, secrets rarely stay buried forever. In November of 1986, a Lebanese newspaper broke the story of United States arms sales to Iran. The Reagan administration, well, they were forced to admit the truth. As journalists and investigators dug deeper, the scandal just kept widening. The illegal support for the Contras was exposed. Congress, they launched an inquiry. Televised hearings absolutely captivated the nation, and the term Iran-Contra Affair entered history. But what were the actual consequences? Legally, several high-profile officials were indicted. Oliver North was convicted on multiple charges, though. Most were later vacated on appeal due to immunity from his congressional testimony. Others, including National Security Advisor John Poindexter and Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger, were also charged. In the final days of George H.W. Bush's presidency, many of those involved were pardoned, effectively ending legal accountability. Politically, the scandal shook the Reagan administration. Reagan's image as a strong moral leader took a hit. Critics accused him of either being unaware of illegal activities happening under his watch, or, worse, approving them in secret. Though Reagan maintained he had no knowledge of the diversion of funds to the Contras, public trust in the government suffered. A Gallup poll from early 1987 showed Reagan's approval rating had plummeted. Internationally, the scandal had far-reaching implications. It really undermined United States credibility, especially in the Middle East and Latin America. Allies started to question American consistency. Enemies exploited the contradiction between United States public policy and secret actions. the United States had been selling arms to a declared enemy, while at the same time supporting a rebel group that Congress had explicitly banned from receiving aid. But, perhaps the deepest consequence was actually institutional. The Iran-Contra Affair exposed some serious weaknesses in the balance of power between the executive branch and Congress. It really highlighted how executive agencies like the National Security Council could operate in secrecy, bypassing oversight. It triggered reforms. Congress passed legislation to tighten control over covert actions and, improve transparency in intelligence operations. But the tension between secrecy and accountability never truly went away. For the intelligence community, the affair was a cautionary tale. Covert operations, even when justified under the banner of national interest, can spiral out of control when they lack proper oversight. The affair, honestly, prompted a re-evaluation of the role of secrecy in democratic governance. And for historians, the Iran-Contra Affair remains one of the most intricate and troubling episodes in American political history. It wasn't just a scandal about illegal arms sales or rogue operations. It was about the limits of power, about the gray zone between foreign policy and domestic law, and about what happens when a nation's leaders decide that the ends justify the means, no matter the cost. Decades later, the Iran-Contra Affair still raises uncomfortable questions. Can a democratic government operate in total secrecy without undermining its own principles? Who holds the powerful accountable when the truth is buried in classified files and covert missions? And perhaps most hauntingly, how many other Iran-Contras have happened without ever being discovered? In the end, the Iran-Contra Affair didn't bring down a presidency. It didn't change United States foreign policy overnight, but it left a permanent scar on the American political conscience. A reminder that even in the name of freedom, deception has consequences. Thank you for watching Old Topic. If history teaches us anything, it's that secrets never stay hidden forever.